Sam Mendes's Skyfall is widely regarded as the best James Bond film of the Daniel Craig era, but because the film industry is never satisfied, he also made Spectre, which many consider to be the worst modern Bond film. Despite having raised the franchise's bar with his first film, Sam Mendes admits Spectre fell short of everyone's expectations. Stay tuned while we dive into the world of cinema's most iconic spy. First things first, critics as well as fans were disappointed by Spectre. In the 2015 film, Daniel Craig's iconic super spy was caught up in the hunt to learn more about the mysterious international crime organization, leading him to confront its leader, Christoph Waltz's Ernst Blofeld. Despite his success with Skyfall, Mendes and Craig's efforts on Spectre were met with a far more mixed response from critics and audiences alike, nearly discouraging the star from returning to the franchise at all. Now, let's talk about what made Spectre such a flop. The film's rushed development cycle ultimately hurt Spectre, not only in production, but also in the final product. Much of the film's criticism stemmed from its reliance on the formula of the campier old James Bond films, particularly in its plot and emphasis on grandiose action sequences. Given Mendes's interest in creating many of its set pieces as practically as possible, the latter received some positive feedback, including the explosive Dia de los Muertos sequence, in which a combination of CGI and special effects brought a whole building down on Craig's Bond. Mendes's feelings that Spectre fell short of Skyfall are sure to ring true for many franchise fans, given how the film was rushed into theaters just 3 years after its predecessor. Moving on, Daniel Craig also agrees with Spectre's shortcomings. Mendes isn't the only one who has expressed dissatisfaction with the way Spectre turned out, with Craig famously stating at the time of its release that he would rather slash his wrists than play James Bond again due to the physical demands of the role. Dave Bautista, who recently reunited with Craig on Knives Out, recently recalled how much more fun he was having on Rian Johnson's Whodunit sequel than the 2015 film, saying that those on set could tell, quote, he was under a lot of pressure on the former while always smiling on the latter. Up next, here are 10 of the highest grossing Bond films from the box office. Spectre was an overall disappointing experience for everyone, but what's one bad Bond movie when you've got 27 more to choose your favorite from? To help you out, we've put together a list of 10 of the highest grossing Bond movies. Starting with number 10, Diamonds Are Forever. Following his retirement from the role following You Only Live Twice, Sean Connery returned for one final outing as James Bond in 1971's Diamonds Are Forever. Diamonds Are Forever is easily the most boring Bond film to date. Whereas Casino Royale may have been the worst film of all time, it was at least perplexing enough that it didn't feel like it was just going through the motions with no motivation or effort. To a lot of viewers, this film was a chore to watch and was extremely disappointing, especially given that it is Sean Connery's final appearance as Bond. Moving on to number 9, Moonraker. Moonraker is frequently chastised for its producer's decision to snag some Star Wars cash by putting the secret agent in space. Yes, the final half hour, which features laser battles between astronauts outside a space station, is completely absurd, but the Earthbound portion has a lot to look forward to. Now at number 8, Casino Royale. After the ultimately disappointing Pierce Brosnan era as the classic character, Casino Royale served as a new point of introduction to the James Bond franchise, with the new Daniel Craig taking over the role and Martin Campbell returning as director after taking a break from the franchise after GoldenEye, which stands out as one of the franchise's biggest highlights to date. With all of these fantastic elements, it's no surprise that Casino Royale was such a fantastic addition to the franchise, bringing a breath of fresh air into the series and possibly starting Daniel Craig's tenure in the series off better than any other Bond before him. Up next at number 7, The Spy Who Loved Me. This dynamic has never been seen in a Bond film before, and when combined with certain elements that play throughout the plot, it provides some really effective depth and emotions. Never before has a Bond film dealt with the consequences of Bond's actions in such a serious way as this one does. It demonstrates that the enemies Bond faces most of the time are also just people, and that their deaths have an impact on others. It isn't the film's main focus, but there is enough commentary and exploration of the subject that it is properly brought up and handled. The dynamic of Bond having competition from a side similar to him, especially from a woman, is also fresh, adding a new dynamic to scenes nearly identical to those seen in previous films. Coming in at number 6, You Only Live Twice. This film is also the most ambitious Bond film to date in terms of visuals and special effects, with a wide range of quality. While some of the big effects, such as the villain's lair hidden inside a volcano, look surprisingly good, there are also plenty of effects that look really off. Especially when the film attempts to use a green screen, it really stands out. Granted, this was made in 1967, so you have to give it some leeway, but there is also no need for them to push the visuals in these scenes. Nonetheless, You Only Live Twice is easily one of the cleanest and most well-constructed Bond films, at least in this stage of the franchise. The morals are dubious, but if you can get past that, this is a clean and engaging story that will help keep audiences invested and on the edge of their seats as they wonder how Bond will get out of this one. While this is not a particularly memorable film, it is solid enough and was an enjoyable watch. Moving on, at number 5, Live and Let Die. With Sean Connery's retirement from the role of James Bond, Live and Let Die marked a new beginning for the Bond franchise. The films capitalized on the popularity of the blaxploitation genre in the early 1970s by sending James Bond to New Orleans, where a British agent has been mysteriously murdered. Bond must figure out what is going on before becoming a target himself. Beyond the relationship this film and series have had with women, it could be part of a larger conversation about the social impact of the blaxploitation era in film. And while that is an important conversation to have, we won't be getting into that right now. Once you get past the film's social issues, it's actually a pretty good Bond film. At number 4, we have Spectre. Spectre, the 24th movie in the James Bond franchise, has a lot to live up to after its brilliant predecessor, Skyfall. That film, lauded by critics and audiences alike, was the highest grossing and arguably best entry in the franchise's 53-year history. Spectre continues the iconic character's futile search for peace, or revenge, or whatever comes first, in keeping with the moody tone of the franchise's reboot in 2006 with Casino Royale, complete with a hero who has a tragic past marked by personal loss. Along with several nods to the Sean Connery and Roger Moore eras by reintroducing the titular terrorist organization, the film uses nostalgia as a glue, connecting us to Bond and him to the often exaggerated but thrilling spy action. Up next at number 3, Goldfinger. With Guy Hamilton taking over as director from Terrence Young, Goldfinger carves a unique identity and feel for itself, taking the best parts of the previous two films and blending them together to create the unique style of film that would build the Bond franchise and revolutionize this genre of film. Now at number 2, we have Thunderball. Thunderball features all of the essential elements of the James Bond film archetype, including far-flung and exotic locations, groundbreaking and cutting-edge screen action, beautiful but disposable femme fatales, witty repartee, futuristic gadgets, and the facially scarred antagonist. Of course, each of these elements has appeared before in Dr. No, From Russia with Love, and especially in 1964's Goldfinger, but they finally came together here. Last but not the least, at number 1, we have Skyfall. Skyfall is the perfect example of how, even after 50 years, Bond can still wow. Director Sam Mendes created a near-classic, loving ode to 007 infused with the quintessential Bond villain. The action sequences are breathtaking, the acting is excellent, and the tone is spot on. It is by far the best Bond film we've seen. The film features Craig in his most suave performance to date. The moody Bond of Quantum of Solace has been replaced by a more upbeat Bond from Casino Royale. Craig's Bond makes quips at his colleagues with ease, but after the opening sequence sends him hurling off a waterfall with a bullet in his shoulder, we realize that Bond isn't just witty comebacks in Skyfall. He's still a hardened action movie spy. Skyfall revolves around Bond being the Bond that everyone knows and loves. And that's a wrap for this video, my friends. Which of these Bond films will you be watching next? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos just like this. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.